Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of A Short View Back to the Podcast. I am Matt.
And I am Jordan.
And, as always, we are not sponsored by Heineken.
Heineken, these are coming daily. Put yourself out of misery by saying you're not sponsoring us and just let it do it. You know?
Yeah, just do it. Like,
we're not asking for much. Just to create a beer a month, that's all. We're not asking for money, just free beer.
Free beer. Silverstone passes.
Yes.
Anything. But anyway, on today's episode, we've started a series now. We have one series of What If, which we'll do more of.
Yeah.
We do another series of quizzes,
Yes.
which we'll do more of. And we do a series of driver careers. So far we've done Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
But today we're going back in time. A short view back to the past.
Niki Lauda said...
Yes. Oh, yes.
Hey!
Yeah, I did not think of that. Today we're doing Niki Lauda.
Very interesting one and all that. Like,
Yeah.
I think particularly now where we always talk about, pay drivers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, really, if you think about it, Niki Lauda was
Is
the first pay driver.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
He bought his way into the sport.
Yeah. So we're starting off in 1973.
I actually want to go back a little bit further than that.
You want to go back a little bit further?
I want to go back a little bit further. So his
How
early years
further?
in racing.
In racing, okay.
So obviously he was born in Vienna, in Austria.
Yeah.
He was born into a rich family.
Yeah, his dad was a banker, weren't he?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and his grandfather was Hans Lauda, who was a some
Hans
sort
is
of...
such an Austrian name, isn't it?
It's a good name, though.
It is,
Hans,
it
you
is.
know. So he's a industrialist. So Lauda became a racing driver against family approval. Now, normally, if you think about rich family, racing driver is normally the way to go.
Yeah.
But obviously, this was obviously the 70s. Very different time. Very different years. So so he became a racing driver. He actually started off racing minis. That's still actually quite a popular sport, Mini Cooper racing.
It is, yeah.
He then moved into Formula VEE. That's still actually a racing series. Fairly cheap. I say all things compared. You know, it's still fairly cheap. It's a cheap single seat sport to get into. But so then he got private drives with Porsche and Chevron. I don't really know too much about Chevron. I'm not there.
Chevron, they're, I've heard of them before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So sort of back in those days, so if you do single seaters and you do sports cars. Nowadays, if you go into sports cars, your career's done in single seater, pretty much.
Yeah.
More or less.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. You know. So that probably would have been like the GT class equivalent back in those days, right? So. Career stalled, like pretty much as all racing drivers would actually tell you.
Yeah.
Career stalled, so he took out a £30,000 bank loan.
Which in today's money is a lot more than 30,000.
Yeah, you're looking probably about 300,000.
Yeah.
Secured by he took like a life insurance policy. So literally, he put his life on the line.
Yeah.
So he'd buy his way into. He bought himself into March, which were an old Formula One team.
Yep.
But he
March Engineering.
Yes.
Which I believe, well, what I've got here was 1972 Formula 2.
Yes.
Great Britain.
Correct.
Yep.
So Bottas went to Formula 2 then, right? Back in those days, Formula 2 was very, very different to what it is now, right? So Formula 2 is, as we now know, is as the feeder series into F1. Formula 2 was, back in those days, something that the Formula 1 drivers used to do in their spare time.
Yeah, as a hobby.
It was like their sort of like their weekend shooting, shall we say. So did that. So that was in 1971. So that's where his, shall we say, career started?
I've got 72 here.
Possibly.
Might be.
But basically, his family disapproved. He had an ongoing feud with them over racing ambitions, and he basically cut his family off. Bit extreme, Niki.
What a lad.
It all worked out fine in the end. So then he was promoted to the F1 team. But before going back to that, I believe his grandfather, who was obviously quite well-to-do in Austria, he had to take out a second bank loan, I believe. I am reading his autobiography currently, which is a very good read. Don't quote me on this.
Jordan reads, I watch.
Yes. I go, Matt, did you know this? You know,
was it in Rush?
Yeah. So I think he took out one bank loan originally, and then his grandfather convinced the bank to withdraw the bank loan. Okay. So
yeah,
bit dodgy actually. Could you imagine doing that now in 2021? Well, either way. So and then he was promoted to the Formula One team, but drove for March in both Formula One and Formula Two in 1972. The F2 cars were apparently good, and his skills impressed the March team principal, which was Robin Hurd at the time. When they moved up to Formula 1 in 1972, apparently it was a bit of a disaster, darling. And apparently there's all sorts of technical issues, but also saying that this was the 70s as well. Yeah. March, I don't really know too much about March as a constructor.
Well, on the information I've got here, from driverdb.com, March weren't even a Formula One team that he drove for. The information I've got here, in 1973 was when he began in F1.
I think he was sort of doing both, I think.
Yeah, might have been. But yeah, the information I've got here, in 1973, he was driving for Marlboro BRM.
BRM, yeah. So he took out another bank loan then.
Okay, yeah.
To buy himself into the BRM team. And obviously all the Austrian banks are like, yeah, get our bank name on the side of that.
Yeah.
We'll have a little bit of that.
So is that where we begin?
That is pretty much where we do begin. I believe, though, when he was at BRM, his teammate was Clay Regazzoni.
Yeah, I remember that.
Is that from Rush?
I believe so, yeah.
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 So I don't know too much about Clay Regazzoni, but I believe he was at Ferrari, went to BRM, then went back to Ferrari. And then he brought Niki Lauda along with him.
But anyway, so 1973, Marlboro BRM.
Yep.
That season there were 14 races. Did not win any. Did not get on the podium. Did not get a pole position, and did not get a fastest lap. He finished 17th in the Drivers' Championship.
Yep.
Then moving on to literally the next year.
74.
What team was he driving for?
Ferrari.
He was driving for Scuderia Ferrari. Yeah, which is a big step up.
Yep.
Literally, it's like Charles Leclerc, ain't it? Racing for a lower
Sauber,
team.
yeah.
And then going to Ferrari sort of thing. But yeah, in 74, 15 races, 2 wins, 5 podiums, 9 pole positions, 3 fastest laps, finished 4th.
Yeah.
Which, 38 points. Again, point system back then.
Very,
very different.
Very different.
Anything you want to add on to that? 74?
Not particularly. I mean, I'm 74, so who was he battling then? So he would have been 74, so he would have been battling the likes of Fittipaldi.
Yeah.
Schultz was retired by then.
Yep.
Jody Scheckter, I believe, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking full-on goats.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, we are literally talking the gods, the racing gods there. Not too much to add to 74.
No. So moving on to 75.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Sorry, actually no. Sorry, just to go back there. So at the end of 74, he was actually really committed to testing and improving the car.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many other drivers were there, very much like the testing and all that, but he was quite. I'm not too sure if he did engineering or something like that, but Lauda was very, very clever.
Yeah. I just want to say, go and watch the film Rush.
Yep.
You'll see. Because I remember when they were filming Rush, the actor that played Niki Lauda spent some time with Niki Lauda. And I think Niki Lauda said like the film's like 90% accurate.
Yeah.
So pretty much everything that happened in the film pretty much happened in real life.
Yeah.
But yeah. So going into 75.
So apparently it was a slow start. I haven't got the race results here.
Okay, well, I'll tell you, there were 17 races.
Yep.
He won 5 of them. He was on podium 8 times, 9 pole positions, 2 fastest laps. And he finished first.
Yes, 75.
75.
75. Yeah. So he's 3-time world championship, isn't he? Yeah.
No, this is his first championship.
Yeah, but I mean total.
Yeah.
Apparently he was the first driver to lap the Nürburgring Nordschleife in under 7 minutes. Now,
right, even in today's standard, that is fucking quick.
I mean, to be fair, I think most modern day road cars will do that in about 7 minutes, but in an old Formula 1 car,
what road cars? Like sports, like GT cars?
Yeah. So you're talking your Porsche 911s, you're talking all your extremely hot hatchbacks.
Yes.
And there is a reason why we don't do racing down the Nordschleife. You know, we're not on about the Nürburgring, we're on about the full-on green hell.
Yeah. What was it, 10.6 miles or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, you're right, that. So, that's actually quite a big, quite actually a really, really big achievement when you think about the Nürburgring, the proper Nürburgring. Seems pretty consistent, actually, that whole sort of thing, you know. I'm still impressed by under 7 minutes. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that is quick. That is. But anyway, 76.
76.
The most. I'd say one of the most famous seasons in F1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, it was actually at the Nürburgring.
It was.
There was heavy rain that sort of weekend. Now, I think very much influenced by Jackie Stewart. He was sort of very much about driver safety.
Yep.
And all that. Now, I don't know the stats. It's not really a stat I really want to know, but probably how many drivers died per season.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, per 1 year.
Yeah.
In Formula 1, a shitload.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So he was calling for the race to be called off because it was dangerous. Safety back then was non-existent.
No.
So he essentially had a crash. Back in those days, all the teams used different harnesses.
They did. Yeah.
So marshals wouldn't know necessarily how to work them. I know it sounds silly, a harness being a harness and all that, but could you imagine trying to get somebody out of a burning car?
Yeah.
Back in those days. So we had the very, very famous crash where unfortunately he did burn alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, very severe burning and all of that. And that was it. But he did return for the end of that season, I believe.
Right, yeah. Just, this is how good Niki Lauda is. Yeah. Like, I don't think there's a person in history that will say Niki Lauda weren't good. So this season, he had his huge crash.
Yep.
He was out for a good amount of races. Obviously, this was with his battle with James Hunt.
Obviously, James Hunt won it, but
James Hunt won it.
Races, yeah.
So there's 14 races that year. Niki Lauda won 5.
Yeah.
So more than a third.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure them 5 were before he had his crash.
Yes.
But even so 14 races. Podiums 9. Pole positions 3, fastest laps 4. And yeah, he did come back. Obviously.
Yeah, with his skin of grass. Yes. Whatever.
Obviously being burnt alive and everything. Did come back and did race. I think his return to the sport, I think he finished 4th after his crash. His first race, I believe he finished 4th. I could be wrong about that.
Let's get it up, shall we? Let's we can get it all up, man.
So we're going 1976.
1976. So, and obviously saying that we're not. Well, in terms of a mass sort of fireball crash, terms of recent years, you can only compare it to Roman Grosjean.
Yeah.
This is actually a credit to how amazing the sport has actually sort of came on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
And also saying that, I'm surprised they actually still let Niki Lauda race. Really, let's be honest about that. That's no.
Well, yeah. Could you imagine after the Roman Grosjean crash, Roman Grosjean coming back after, I know it was like the end of the season, but let's say Roman Grosjean came back after 2 races and went, I'm gonna race now.
We'll be like,
yeah,
simmer down, boy.
Sit the fuck down.
Whoa, right, come on, right, sit down.
Yeah.
Sit down, right, come on, let's get you. All right, just So, in 76, Lauda won the Brazilian Grand Prix, South Africa.
Yeah.
He also won Belgium, Monaco, Silverstone. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it back in those days. But in terms of the Drivers' Championship,
James Hunt.
Lauda came second.
Yeah. It was only by slim margins as well, weren't it?
1 point.
1 point, yeah. So, yeah, all right, yeah. So that's how good Lauda was. I think he missed like 4 races.
About that.
4 races out of a 14-race season. And he still finished second by 1 point.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I mean, sort of looking at that grid. I mean, there's not many names I actually do completely recognise as well. But, the main one that I see on there is, obviously James Hunt. 1 point.
Yeah, 1 point.
If we look at James Hunt's wins. So, James Hunt won in Spain. He won in France, Germany. Ooh, I bet that felt like a hollow victory.
Yeah.
Netherlands, that would have been Zandvoort. And Canada. So he only won 6 races.
Yeah. And I'm guessing 4 of them was when Niki Lauda weren't racing.
Oh, did you know?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But anyway, that was the 1976 season.
Yep.
So I'm just rushing along because we've only got a few minutes left.
We've got plenty of time.
Yeah.
So no, he only missed 2 races.
Did he?
Yes.
I thought he missed like 4.
No. And this is actually a really thing everybody was sort of going about. I think one of the questions he was once asked was, so what are you going to do now? Because you're ugly.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that. And all that. So he only missed 2 races.
It weren't that. It was I believe because this was in Rush.
Yeah.
They went, what does your wife think about you now that you're ugly? Or something called out at you look the way you do look.
And that was it, but we're going to come back to
we'll
that
come back
later
to that,
on.
Yeah.
So after that, so going into 1978. 77. Won the championship, I believe.
Yep, 14 races, 3 wins, 10 podiums, 2 pole positions, 3 fastest laps, won the championship. Then we got 78.
He goes to Brabham Alfa Romeo for a $1 million salary. Fuck me, that was a lot back in those days.
So they've missed 78 on this thing altogether.
So 78, he went over to Brabham.
Yep.
This is when it's basically when the car looked like that.
Oh, okay.
This is what they call the fan car.
Yep.
So $1 million salary. It won its first and only race at the Swedish Grand Prix. Bring back the Swedish Grand Prix, They didn't use that particular car in F1 again.
Sorry, 78. What team?
It was at Brabham Alfa Romeo.
Oh, sorry. Here it says he was at Parmalat Racing Team.
They were the title sponsor.
Oh, they were the title sponsor.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's it.
How many wins did you say they had, though?
They had 1.
Here it says they had 2.
Oh, so with that 1 car, so they changed it over. Bernie Eccleston was the team owner at the time.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, yeah, just the stats that I've got.
Yeah.
There were 16 races. He won 2 of them, was on the podium 7 times, 1 pole position, 6 fastest laps. No, 4 fastest laps, finished 4th in the championship.
Yeah, it seems as if here that they just had a very bad car, Brabham, that year.
Yeah.
Apparently finished 4th in Monza.
Okay.
Don't really know, but anyway, at the end of 1979, he retired.
Well, 1979, he was still with that team. 13 races, 0 wins, 0 pole positions, 0 podiums, 0 fastest laps, finished 14th.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then, 1982, he made a comeback. He went to McLaren.
He did indeed.
Well,
not just McLaren.
Marlboro McLaren.
Yes.
Oh, those McLaren. So good. Why don't they? McLaren, go back to your red and white, please. You know.
Right, this is what I don't get about F1.
Yeah.
So we're banning cigarette companies. Can't have cigarette company sponsors on the car. But fuck it, have an Estrella.
But all the alcohol sponsors we've got in Formula One
have an alcohol-free.
Yeah, it's the alcohol-free versions. I mean, no brewery will do. You know.
Yeah.
Just do 0. So Niki Lauda.
Yeah.
Is the only driver in the world to win a championship with McLaren and Ferrari. Not been done yet.
No.
Unless Lewis maybe goes to Ferrari.
Yeah, that will never happen. That will never happen. But just gone on the 82 season, 14 races, 2 wins, 3 podiums, 0 pole positions, 1 fastest lap, finished 5th.
That's not bad.
No, quite good.
Especially back in the early 80s.
Yes.
When it was really, really competitive.
So, moving on to 84.
How did he do in 84?
Huh?
How did he do in 84?
Oh, how did he do in 84? Well, shall I tell you, Jordan?
Go for it.
So, there were 16 races. He won 5 of them. So, pretty much a third of the races. 9 podiums, 0 pole positions. 5 fastest laps. He finished first.
And bear in mind, that is, 3 years out of the sport?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, could we imagine Alonso? Is Alonso on that logic? Then surely Alonso will win the championship next year, this year even. It can't be done now.
Not with that pink car, no.
But what I like about Niki Lauda.
Sorry.
Go for it.
Sorry. He went out the sport. 2002, he was a test driver for Jaguar. That's what I've got here.
Niki Lauda.
Niki Lauda.
Was he?
He was. 2008. This ain't in F1, but 2008, he was in the Pro Car BMW M1 Revival Series. 2 races. He won 1 of them.
Well, to be fair, that's like Martin Brundle and Damon Hill driving a VW Scirocco round on the rally track, though.
So, yeah. But just to add on that, I wish I'd done this for the Seb Vet and Lewis episodes. Races entered, 230. Wins, 34. Podiums, 72. Pole positions, 27. Fastest.
Whoa! So 72 race wins.
Podiums.
Okay.
Race wins was 34.
Oh, okay.
Pole positions, 27. Fastest laps, 30. Average race win, 14.8. Which is quite alright. And podium percentage, 31.3.
So surely that puts Nick, on terms of stats, up there with as a GOAT.
Yeah.
Must do.
Yeah, must do.
I mean, what I like about Niki Lauda is there was a quote of his, I think when he was given a trophy and all that, and he said, "No, I dedicate this to the losers," said, because I learn more from losing.
And winning, yeah.
Yeah, and like that. Going back to that quote when someone said, what's your wife now going to do because you're ugly and all that, because you're better alive? I think when he won in 84, was it 85? Oh, the year he won with McLaren.
Yeah. 85, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
That same reporter said, "How do you feel?" And then Niki Lauda remembered him because he was dubbed as the rat because of his little overbite. Yeah. But he always say, "I don't mind about that." He said, "Rats are intelligent."
Yeah.
So, and he said, "Oh, I know." He said, "Oh, I don't think you do. I don't think you do." He was like, "No, I do know you." He said, "You asked me after this, what am I going to do? Now you think my wife thinks I'm ugly?" He said, "I'm asking you a question. Fuck you."
Yeah.
Did that, and then the rest made something different for sports. I believe he did work for Ferrari in the 90s as sporting director.
Might have done, yeah.
Might have done. I need to go and double check that.
Yeah.
But then Mercedes. It's been said on paper, quote, if it wasn't for Niki Lauda, Lewis would not be with Mercedes.
No, they wouldn't.
No.
Because I remember, I think Lewis once said Lauda was the, what's the word? Contributing factor of him going to Mercedes. And
who wouldn't?
Yeah. When you've got Lauda there, like you said, when he was with Ferrari, he would be there for the testing, for the development of the car, for everything to make sure that car was fast. So yeah.
Yeah, and I must admit, I don't think Mercedes has quite been the same without Lauda.
No, exactly.
Its presence has been felt worldwide.
Yes.
By the sport. A man who is a 3-time world champion, who also says, you can't win if you can't lose, you know. That's just fantastic. So, yeah, Niki Lauda, you know, we raise our Heineken to you.
Yep.
Get the clink in there.
Not sponsored by Heineken.
Not sponsored by Heineken. But, yeah, you know, that's great. You know, just we'll never have another career like that and just a man with that much determination either. Well, thank you very much. Listen to this little, shall we say, tribute to Niki Lauda.
Yeah.
If there's any drivers who you want us to do an episode on, let us know in the comments.
Yep.
Send us a DM.
Yep. Please share, like, subscribe, comment. Do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do. Keep on listening. Drive safe.
Drive safe.